Good evening and welcome to the weekly candle close stream. Tonight we are going to look at what's coming up in the next few hours, what we can expect from the week ahead, and we'll touch on some of the closes from last week, which I think will have a big bearing on price action this week, in particular the stock market and gold. As always, weekly candle close in 3 hours and 53 minutes, a massive moment in the week, something we should pay attention to, and that's why we try and do as many streams on a Sunday night as possible. Good to see so many people in already. We are going to go round some of the charts, some of the news, and then we will discuss what I think's coming. Deck seems to think the bottom's in, so let's discuss if that's the case. We'll also look at a few posts or narratives on X and pretty much put them to bed tonight. So let's have a look at Bitcoin on the weekly. You can see not much has really changed since we were live on Friday. The Bitcoin price action's been pretty steady over the weekend. We've got a nice bit of move today, basically just replacing what we sold off over Saturday and Sunday. It's sitting right now around $111,277. Quite a nice price, to be fair, before the US futures open. I wouldn't be too bothered by that at all. I think, for me, until we reclaim $112,000 with a daily candle close, I'm not going to be getting too excited by price action. It's kind of just a wait and see moment for right now. That's the way I see it. That's how I think everyone else is playing it as well. I think there's a lot of lethargy in the market. There's not a lot of energy. There's no volume. The market just seems a bit blah right now. I think this week will change all that. I think there's going to be a lot of volatility, and we'll discuss that shortly. Ethereum, similar story. Pretty much zero volume. The weekly candle is red, which after an absolute monster rally isn't anything to be too surprised about. I mean, if we go back to April the 7th, Ethereum at its highest point was up 253%, and a $500 billion asset. It's a pretty big move. Even to right now, still up over 200%, and we are down. What are we down? 13% from the high. So this is what's going to happen in a market. What is encouraging to see is the rest of the altcoins are up today, and they're up a lot more than Bitcoin and Ethereum. So that does kind of tell its own picture that maybe the Bitcoin and Ethereum momentum is shifting a little bit. We'll maybe see some altcoins break out, but if I'm brutally honest, I don't expect any massive altcoin moves until Bitcoin reclaims the all-time high. But we could see some isolated bursts. We're seeing like Polkadot up 4.5%, but nothing really mad happening. Trump's coin did move nicely yesterday, I think. Yeah, so you can see yesterday it was up 19%, but I mean, it's just a pump and dump at this point. Need to wait and see how the price action develops. XRP, I posted in CC Pro earlier today. XRP looking like it was attempting to break out of this range it had been in. So you can see for the last few days, go back to kind of Friday lunchtime, just kind of traded in this box. Just in here. Let me sort that. So we just kind of traded in this little box here. It looked like we were trying to break out of it earlier. As you can see, we're kind of back testing that range, which would set us up for a breakout of the daily downtrend, which goes back to July 18th. So that would be bullish. I mean, if we got a daily close outside of this trend line, that would be really bullish. I would expect us to back test it, but then being above the trend line is still bullish, and then we would expect an attack of this level up here around 337 to 340, which is obviously the all-time high from January. So XRP looking like a bit of strength in the market. Binance Coin, as always, seems to hold up better during these downturns. I wonder why. Back above its previous all-time high just from a few weeks ago, the 29th of July. Just consolidating at all-time high. That is really bullish for me. And if we got a breakout on BNB, that would probably be a really bullish signal to the market that altcoins are going to follow, and there is going to be liquidity in the market. And then Dogecoin showing real strength today. I don't know how much emphasis I would put on this triangle, but the fact that we've broke above this support resistance line and back tested it on the 8-hour time frame, probably better on the 4-hour, you can see it, that to me would be pretty bullish. We need to wait and see how price action develops over the next couple of hours, especially with it being a weekend, especially a Sunday night. There's a lot of movements that happen on Sunday night. You could reel them off, but price either pumps or crashes on a Sunday night is pretty regular. So yeah, Dogecoin looking strong, which would be pretty nice if it started to move. It's had a bit of a lackluster few months, pretty much been in this range since February, done very little at all. So that's kind of the highlights in the altcoin market as I see it in the top coins. Check in on total market cap, just consolidating as Dex says, so flat. The market is void of any volume. That might change this week for a couple of factors. One, we're now less than 2 weeks away from the next Fed meeting where we're going to get a rate cut. Two, there's a lot of volatility in macro this week with PPI, CPI, and the jobs revision, which has got a lot of people paying attention. And then thirdly, it's the middle of September now. The Wall Street traders are back from their vacation. Now, selling may go away, didn't translate into price action for crypto. But regardless, still, people took holidays, people took time off for the charts. That time is pretty much over now, and it's back to full-time trading, and that's why we historically see a big back end of the year. Every year, pretty much, the final few months are the most bullish. I think this year, even more so. And the reason for that is the first half of this year, you had Trump and all his policies changes that he made. You had tariffs and the massive uncertainty that came with tariffs. That's disappeared now. Tariffs are in. Tariffs are happening. It is what it is. And you had conflict in the Middle East, which seems to be kind of quiet for now. I do think it'll reignite soon, but for now it's quiet. So if you're a trader, first half of the year was really difficult to position, especially with size, because you had to be so cautious because of all the uncertainty surrounding you. You also had the Fed. Now, post-summer, you've got clarity with Fed rate cuts. We know there's going to be a cut in 2 weeks' time. You have clarity on tariffs because most of the tariffs are in, and if anything, they're only going to get softer the longer they're in. So that's bullish. You have less Middle Eastern conflict. I wouldn't say no Middle Eastern conflict because I don't think there's ever zero conflict there. And then you also have a bit more clarity on what Trump's going to do in the kind of second and third year of his term. And that is, he's going to run the economy hot, he's going to print GDP like it's going out of fashion, and the money supply is going to explode. So as a trader, the second half of the year becomes so much more predictable. You can allocate with size, with a bit of certainty in what you're doing. First half of this year was chaos. So that's why I think it's going to be a bullish second half of the year, and I think September could kickstart it, and it probably could kickstart next week, and I wouldn't be surprised. Let's have a look in the chat. Let's see who's in. So Lewis is in, as always. Decentralized is saying BORG is coiling up. Dex says the PA is driving them insane, which normally tells them the bottom's in and that the market's flat. And we have Niall saying, what is going on with US government and stablecoins? And then we've got Gala and Velo to have a look at. So let's have a look at the stablecoin market cap. We cover it quite a lot because it is a massive driver in crypto. Down red for the day, so the first red day in a few days, but still massively up. This might change by the end of tonight as well. So you've got the stablecoin market cap, you've got Tether market cap, and then you have stablecoin dominance, which hopefully is going to get rejected here. Stablecoins basically are being promoted by the US government because they have to, for every $1 they create, 1 USDT for example, they have to buy $1 of US government debt. Right now, the Genius Act is not actually signed into law. It's been approved and they're finally working on it. And then there's the market structure bill. But basically, any big bank in the US will be able to issue a stablecoin, and they'll have to buy treasuries versus those stablecoins. Bullish for the US government because they're going to have new buyers of treasuries. Because if you're in, to explain it the easiest way, if you're in Nigeria, Chile, Lebanon, any of these countries, you want dollars. There's no way of getting your hands on dollars. There's only the black market where you can buy dollars and then you hold them on you as cash, which is obviously dangerous in these countries. You can't go to a bank and get dollars, but your own currency might inflate by 45% while you sleep. One weekend it could inflate by 100%. The government can seize your assets in a bank. By enabling regulated US dollars worldwide, what the US government's basically going to do is mean anyone anywhere in the world with a digital wallet can buy a stablecoin which is regulated by the US government. Now, whatever you think of that, good or bad, the bottom line is there's global demand for dollars, whether we like it or not. That's going to feed global demand for US treasuries, and effectively stablecoins are going to back up the US government's debt. So that's why it's such a big deal. And as we know, if you hold stablecoins, you're more likely to dabble in crypto, Bitcoin, whatever. So yeah, very bullish. What's everyone thinking of gold? Does gold go higher or is gold topped here? That'd be an interesting conversation, see what everybody thinks. And then MicroStrategy, obviously not included in the S&P 500, but it did gap up on Friday. When futures open in 2 hours, I'll be interested to see where pre-market puts MicroStrategy. I'm going to say, I think everybody's going to be super bearish on MicroStrategy this week. I think MicroStrategy pumps. I think we see a bit of a short squeeze. And I think it will catch all the bears out because everybody's thinking that market reaction to not being included in the S&P 500 is going to be bearish. Typically, when everybody thinks one way, market goes the other way. Let's have a look. BORG to 150 this year. Yeah, I think it'll definitely eclipse $1 by the end of the year. It just depends how quick the altcoin market moves and alt season kicks in. But yeah, don't see why not. We'll look at Gala and Velo. Niall says bond yield. So basically, the more people that buy bonds, so the more stablecoins that get created, that'll mean more people buying US bonds. That'll mean the yield comes down, which is bullish for risk assets because when the yield comes down, the government can refinance and borrow more, and it's just better for the economy. Obviously, anyone with borrowing wants the yield as low as possible, so it'll stimulate the economic activity. A lot of traders touting short on gold via LinkedIn. Interesting, Sean. I'll give my thoughts on that shortly. Let's go through some news stories. Where will we start? Let's start with Michael Saylor, actually. We spoke about him there. So he posted this. This is his Bitcoin portfolio, up 55%. Average cost $71,000. $70 billion worth of Bitcoin. An insane amount. 636,505 Bitcoin. But he's saying it needs more orange. These orange are the buys. Says it needs more orange. That means he's going to buy this week, which basically just means that by the time it does get added to the S&P 500, the people that need to buy it to be part of the index fund, they're going to have to pay a higher price for MicroStrategy. So the S&P 500 not including it on Friday, they might have, whatever their reason for not including it, all it means is when people do have to buy it, they're going to have to pay a higher price and probably it'll be the end of this year. I'm sure it's once a quarter they rebalance. Maybe it's once a month. But either way, they've basically just screwed all the pension funds, all the index funds, all the hedge funds that buy the S&P 500 because they're going to have to pay a higher price to allocate to MicroStrategy. So this tweet here, so US Treasury Secretary says the jobs revision on Tuesday expects jobs to be revised down by 800,000 jobs. So that's important because basically the Fed has not been cutting rates this year because the job market was so strong. There were so many jobs and everybody was employed. Well, actually, we know that is now not true. And the Fed's been looking at flawed data and they've been backwards looking. So for me, this is going to be really bullish. We are already starting to see 50 basis point have a small chance. This will rise this week with the weak labour market numbers, but I think inflation might come in a bit hot. So I think I can't see this happening at all next on the 17th. It's going to be a 25 basis point cut. But what's interesting, if you fast forward to just June next year, the market is pricing in 5 rate cuts by June. Pretty interesting if that happens. Right, let's talk about this. So this is everywhere on my timeline right now. Tonight is a solar lunar eclipse, apparently. Apparently it's a blood moon, and apparently every time we get one, it is bearish. Well, the problem with this is he uses a 10-day chart. It's a one-day event. Why wouldn't you use the one-day chart? Well, the reason he doesn't use the one-day chart is because it doesn't fit with his bearish tweet. And actually, when you look at some of these days where the moon happens, is actually a green day. So you're seeing this all over your timeline. You'll see it tonight. You'll see it tomorrow. I can't find any correlation between blood moon, lunar eclipse, and crashing markets. What I have saw is that the market typically bottoms or tops within 7 days of one of these events. So the market bottom could already be in based on that. But yeah, that's just fugazi nonsense. People are really desperate looking for content if they're now expecting us to drop to 100k because the moon is the moon behind the earth or the earth I don't know, whatever a lunar eclipse is. This is a quite interesting tweet just to counter that. Every institution will build its stablecoin on Ethereum. ETH shorts are at record highs. ETH, as you can see by this chart here, higher than they were a few months ago when we got that explosive move. And then ETH on exchanges has hit a new all-time low. So we're just building up for a massive, massive short squeeze this year. Bitcoin, Ethereum, I can see a short squeeze in both because everyone's so bearish. I think it wouldn't surprise me. Let me see. It actually wouldn't surprise me if we did something like this. If we kind of pumped into maybe even next Monday, Tuesday, and maybe got as high as the CME gap around 117k. So next Tuesday, and then FOMC, we see a bit of a flash crash, and then we go higher. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Everyone expects prices just to automatically start rising when the Fed cuts. It's not going to happen exactly like that, although it is bullish for prices long term. At the same time, crashing the price right now, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense because people are bearish. There's loads of shorts will make money. If you pump the market into FOMC, everybody's going to pile in long, everybody's going to be getting excited, you're going to get FOMO, people are going to see headlines about how the Fed's about to pump Bitcoin to 200k, and then you crash the market, you're going to make more money as a market maker. So that would be the more likely path, in my opinion. On top of that, you could do it as literally just, we've saw it before, I can't remember when it was, but it could just be a candle, something like this. You know, where we flash down and flash up all in one day, and they blame a trader sold 100,000 Bitcoin by mistake in one transaction. They make up whatever they want, but that to me would be a more profitable move than just crashing the market from here. That makes no sense to me. Everyone's ultra bearish, and I don't see rewarding shorts make sense right now. And then lastly, this is all the news events this week. So Tuesday, we've got that BLS data revision. That's going to be massive. Wednesday, we've got PPI inflation. Thursday, CPI. And yeah, a big week of macro. And then I think oil's going to drop below $60 a barrel this week. That's bullish for inflation long term, although it's bearish if you produce oil. Alright, let's see the chat, because it's been going a bit wild while I was rounding up all those news stories. So Sean says a lot of traders are touting short on gold, so let's cover gold in a second. Decentralized says XRP to $6. Niall says there's a stubborn refusal from old money to admit what Bitcoin is, or they're really did Luna crash on a full moon? Probably not. So there is a stubbornness from people adopting new technology. That's just life. The smartphone comes out, people didn't want to use it. Like, look at the nonsense when the internet came out. People were saying that it was never going to catch on, it was just a fad. That seems crazy now, but it's the same with the smartphone. When the iPhone came out, people said they would never use it, it would break, it wouldn't work. Now, no one doesn't have a smartphone. Crypto will be the same. AI is the exact same. I saw somebody today saying there should be a boycott of companies that use AI to replace staff. That's just madness. That's like saying when email came out that you would stop using companies that emailed people rather than sending out physical letters. You have to adapt. You have to change. The problem with old money is that they got very, very rich off their traditional principles. You look at Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's sitting in his biggest cash position ever. He's holding $350 billion in cash right now. Is he doing that because the stock market's overvalued, or is he doing it because the companies where he should be allocating money, he doesn't properly align with? In the past, he bought McDonald's, he bought Walmart, he bought Coca-Cola. Right now, the market's all about tech. It's about AI. It's not, I think the world changes and these people got really rich, so they don't need to adopt Bitcoin. The other thing with Bitcoin, for me, is Bitcoin's adoption's fastest where it's needed the most. Most of these rich people don't need Bitcoin. If you sit on $100 million and you're earning 5% a year, you're pretty happy. Do you care? If, some people do, don't get me wrong, some people want to chase infinite wealth, that's fine. But if you're sitting on 100 million, you're making 5 million a year without touching a button, do you care? Probably not. You're probably pretty comfortable. You've got houses here, there, and everywhere. You travel all day long. Like, you've got an easy life. You don't need Bitcoin. You don't care about Bitcoin because it's just a stress. Because if you put 100 million into Bitcoin, it crashes 50%. I don't care who you are. That's a gut wrench and drop. So yeah, maybe it's stubbornness, or maybe they just don't need Bitcoin and they don't care. They're happy living the life on a yacht somewhere. Not everybody necessarily needs Bitcoin right now, but long term, I think Bitcoin, we all know its value. All right, let's cover gold. So the reason I brought gold up is, so on the fibs, it looks pretty healthy. It looks like it could go much higher, $4,000 easy. For me, the only reason I bring it up is this indicator here. So it doesn't flash too many times on higher time frames. On the 2-week time frame, which is pretty high to be fair, it's starting to flash a top signal. On the weekly, it's starting to flag a reversal signal. So those combined, to me, tells me it's massively overbought. But more importantly is, this to me was pricing in the next cuts. I think it's already priced in. This could make me look stupid. This could absolute rally. Gold could absolute fly from here and go to $5,000 easy. But for me, it does look like this is kind of the euphoric last minute rise before it corrects. So we had the big pump, we corrected at the top, kind of accumulated, and then we have one last pump and then it drops. That's what it looks like to me. Lure in the retail crowd. All the central banks have been buying all the way up here. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens with gold. But if we compare it to, let's look at Bitcoin in 2021. You see, this is kind of, it has this rally and then accumulates, and then it has one pump higher than them all, and then it falls. And it did the same here. Massive rally, pump, accumulate, one final pump, and then crash. So I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, because obviously gold is a direct competitor of fiat currency. And we know fiat currency is about to get debased. But to me, it looks like it might already have priced that in. And all these retail people piling into gold because they're seeing it everywhere right now. I don't know if that's the right trade. The only counter to what Sean said is, one, I hate LinkedIn. But two, I wouldn't short gold. I just wouldn't short it here. I think it could easily correct and come down to 3,200. It could easily go to $5,000. There is no way I would be shorting it right now, because all it takes is the Fed to do a 50 basis point move, and they do a 50 basis point cut next week, and gold goes to $4,000. So I wouldn't be shorting it, but I also think we could see a bit of a cool off for the rest of the year, and it wouldn't surprise me either. So yeah. Let's have a look. Usman says, if I had to put a time frame on when this is all over, how long you saying? Good question, Lewis. Very good question. So, to be honest, timeframes are really difficult, Usman. One thing I would say is I think this market, when it rallies, is going to be a very fast, sharp, explosive rally. I think the altcoins are going to play catch up, and it's going to melt faces. I think it's really hard to tell. I'll be brutally honest. I think we could see a huge pump over the next few weeks. I think this bull run has another leg in it in 2026. I've not seen anything to counter that yet, because it all depends on what actually happens with Bitcoin. I think if Bitcoin gets up, like I've said, 135 to 150k between now and maybe the end of October, and then we have like a 20-30% correction, I think it's got another leg to go in 2026. That'll be the most dangerous time to trade crypto, in that correction, because everybody will be saying the top's in, and normally that is a signal. But I've told everybody the story before. Back in 2021, Bitcoin corrected down to 32k. Everybody said that was it, that was the bottom. We were going to have another leg higher and go to 100k, and we never got it. We crashed to 15k. So it's a really dangerous period. But in my opinion, when Bitcoin next runs and it goes to 135 to 150k, that area, I think altcoins are going to massively explode higher. So most people should be able to extract as much profit as possible during that period anyway. So it won't really matter what happens afterwards in terms of hitting some of your targets. So I think between now and Christmas, I expect a lot of targets for CC Pro members to be hit. I think definitely XRP will hit a new all-time high, Solana will hit a new all-time high, and we'll see the broader market hit highs before Christmas. I'm pretty confident. I'm like 95% confident that happens between now and Christmas. In terms of that being the top, I'd say I was 50-50. It'll depend on how fast we get there, and what the price is when we get there, and what euphoria comes out in the market. So there's loads of different checklists. I don't think it's easy to say now. We kind of need to see how the next month or so plays out, how price action develops, to really determine whether that's the top or we're going to have a crash and then another move. Lewis, where do I see gold pulling back to? So I kind of highlighted this zone in here. So maybe somewhere around $3,200. It could definitely go lower. I think there's always going to be a buyer. This little area here looks pretty nice, to be fair. But to be honest, you might not even... Sorry. Here. You might not even get this pullback. Simply because no one wants US treasuries worldwide. Everybody wants gold. I fully believe that oil will be traded in gold. It probably already is, but I think oil will be traded in gold by the end of 2026 on a more global scale, because nobody wants dollars, nobody really wants fiat. Accumulating dollars to trade in is a pain for Europe, for Britain, for all these countries. And then I tweeted something the other day, I don't know if anybody saw, but oil production's a really weird thing. They change the production targets based on how much they're getting for their money. So if oil trades down to $50 a barrel, production will get cut to increase the price. And then when the price goes too high, they'll increase the production. But that's all to do with the fact that they're getting fiat currency for the oil. If oil was priced in gold, they would just produce bucket loads of the stuff all day, every day, full pressure on, because they'd be accumulating gold that over time they can't lose with. And the world needs as much energy as possible. So it's a way to incentivize full-scale production of energy. Whereas right now, people don't want endless buckets of dollars. So I think oil priced in gold will be a massive trade in the next 18 months. DXY's fib target for gold, which is nice. I'm assuming he's not selling. Shiv says, think Warren Buffett offloaded substantial stock and bought some new bank holdings. Yeah, I heard that. They hold Bitcoin, which is hilarious. Bertie, any reason why multiple members have rated your WAP community 1 star? Yeah, you can go and read on WAP. There's probably a couple of them watching the stream. Algo 10x doesn't even get you to all-time high. Great buy. Let's have a look at Algorand. So Algorand, yeah, looks like it's coming back to this support here. You can see quite a few touches on that support. Had quite a nice move in December, to be fair. The December move up hit 60 cents, so it's 3x from here, which I've said before, the December highs are like a total illusion, because they just look out of place on a lot of charts. You've just been trading under this orange bar, and then all of a sudden you just get this massive pop in December. I think these will act as resistance levels, but once they're broken, coins are going to go much, much higher. I think Algorand does look pretty decent, to be fair. Yeah, you could see it easily up at these $2.10 levels, 10x from here, easy. Yeah, Ryan, I do think Sushi will. I've said before, I think DEXs are going to be a massive play over the next couple of years, but certainly in the bull run. You see how quick it moves as well. It's just a liquidity sponge, plus more people coming at DEXs, AI, all that stuff. I think Sushi will do really well. So yeah, I think it could do all-time highs. Dex sold all his gold, probably for silver, I'm going to guess. Right, let's show quite an interesting chart that I had. So XRP versus Bitcoin. So let's go to the 2-week charts, quite a high time frame. So over the last few weeks, we've just been consolidating around this support. Now, this support dates back to, that's 2019, support back in 2017, and then kind of support resistance back in 2014. So XRP versus Bitcoin looks like it's bottoming out. Every time we have these massive rallies, this pump here on the 21st of July, that took us to the all-time high. So you can see it has a nice reaction. If we look at XRP versus Ethereum on the weekly, you can also see we've came back to this level here, which was a support level back in December before we went on and put in that high. So for me, XRP looks like it could be ready to have quite a nice week. XRP dominance just kind of trading sideways, but still massively down. So above 4%, but nothing crazy yet. I expect it to get up much higher, maybe not 30%, but I do think it'll break 10%. Yeah, again, no time frames, but the XRP charts all starting to look very nice. You've also got Ethereum versus Bitcoin. So hit this this level here, I suppose kind of a support resistance on the weekly time frame. I think this probably doesn't bottom out quite as quickly. I think it looks like the breadth in the market is going to open up. I think total 3 is going to be the big winner over the next week, maybe even the next 2 weeks, and that correlates with the Russell 2000, which, if you've been tuning in, we've spoke about this for ages. Putting a high back in November, a low with the tariffs. You can see we have now closed above the final retracement level at the 886, which means the next key resistance level is all-time high, and from there, once we explode beyond there, altcoins will go crazy. Small caps, which the Russell 2000 covers, are the biggest winners from rate cuts. The Mag 7, the big tech stocks, they don't rely on borrowed capital. They can raise money, they can sell shares, they have huge revenue generating businesses. They don't need to borrow money when interest rates go high. Small caps do. They rely on low rates because they rely on debt to finance their business, but at the same time they also can't chase this AI efficiency because you need money to spend on it. The Mag 7 have obviously done very well out of the AI narrative. So yeah, I expect the Russell to have another good couple of weeks, and that's going to set total 3 up very nicely. Also looks like it's just consolidating at such a tight range. We've basically traded in an $80 billion range since the 13th of August. So almost a month just trading between that level. Del Boy, great name. The current predictions for BORG. So we kind of covered it at the start, but we never looked at the chart. Somebody asked at the start if I thought it was coiling up. It looks like it's coiling up to me. 3-day chart looks pretty good. Weekly chart looks even better. Just on the 200-day moving average. For me, I think once we get out of this tight range, we will move pretty quickly to that kind of 40 cents area. For me, by the end of the year, I expect it to be above $1. I think there's loads of things coming. We're getting closer, to be fair. It's like 2 weeks, I think, until we'll start to hear some news from Swiss BORG. I think that'll be very bullish for price, and I don't think there's a lot of sell pressure in this chart. Most of the selling that used to happen was market makers in the centralized exchange. Now everything's DEX. So the only people selling are real people, and I just can't imagine, even if you bought down here, are you going to sell for like a 2 or 3x? I just can't see it. So yeah, I don't think there's a lot of sell pressure until we get beyond $1. I also think some of these areas on this chart, I don't know how relevant they'll be, because obviously back in here, BORG was on sexes. Now that it's only on DEX only, don't know if these will be as important, but we shall see. Quite a nice uptrend, to be fair. Just higher lows all the way. Kind of higher highs as well. So yeah, it's in quite a nice uptrend despite the market conditions. So yeah, patience for BORG. Let's have a look at Chili's. Be very careful of people telling you about AI trading algorithms. Most of them will be one, it won't be AI, and two, they'll all be using the same rules, so everybody's just selling and buying against each other. Yeah, I would just be very careful of trading groups, especially when they say they're using AI to generate mental returns. Just ask for history. Most traders, most trading groups should have 6, 12, 18 months worth of history to show you their trades, and then you can make your own decision. But yeah, be very careful trading groups. Chili's looks like it's kind of starting to find some level of bottom on the 3-day chart. Yeah, it looks like this could be a bit of a mid-term bottom for it. I think long term it'll do well. I think they need to seriously ramp up market, and they had some amazing partnerships. Although we belittle the partnership title in crypto because everybody just lists partnerships, but I think Chili's genuinely had relationships with some big football teams in Europe, but they never really done anything with the token. So yeah, I think probably listing fan tokens was a mistake. Doing something with a Chili's token and each club would have made more sense. But yeah, I think it'll do well. It's one of those ones that retail always pays attention to. It would be ideal if we could break above the 200-day moving average pretty soon. But you can see again another chart where, I mean, I don't know what your definition of coiling up is, but this thing looks pretty much primed for a breakout. Just tight. So yeah, and AXS, I mean, probably very similar. Yeah, so similar. All the charts outside the top 10 are identical, just waiting on that burst of positive news. Yes, so somebody's asking about Alvara. Great timing, because I actually do have an update on Alvara. So mainnet is live, but it's not the full experience yet. There was a problem with the mainnet, so they've just had to do a bit of coding work. They need to get it re-audited next week, and then the full Buna, the full experience mainnet will go live in the next couple of weeks. To all intents and purposes, the mainnet is live right now, but it'll be a better experience. You'll be able to do a lot more things on the dashboard and stuff like that in the next couple of weeks. I also think the minting process isn't working properly right now. So yeah, I think Alvara's a great price today. I'm sure it's down quite a bit. Spoke about this the other night, so anyone in here that does want to trade, does want to take part in some of our trades, we've got a trading video on low leverage trades. We use BloFin, so this special is live right now, so you can see you get loads of contributions when you deposit. You can sign up and create as many BloFin accounts as you want. It's no KYC, you just need a different email address. Just don't forget passwords, and you need the 2FA. But as you can see, huge bonuses right now, especially if you hit the volume targets. You can obviously earn quite a bit. Live until the 15th of September. hopefully Deck can drop the BloFin referral code because I forgot to add it. But sign up using our link, and that means you'll be able to copy Quantoshi as well as earn some free dollars. And then I wonder what everybody's thoughts are on this. So there's loads of stories circulating. I don't know how much is true and how much is false because I've seen loads of different amounts. But apparently the UK government is now enforcing withdrawal limits on certain accounts. I know something similar happened in Spain recently. But yeah, I wonder what your thoughts are. If this is affecting you, let us know because yeah, another argument why, you know, having the ability to set up in Dubai is very beneficial. But yeah, let us know on this if this is true. Is this happening? Has MD experienced it? Let us know. Let's see what Sean's saying. Sean's saying he would love to see total investment from all in BORG. Well, in anything. I think what's safe to say is we are heavily invested in this market. We put our money where our mouth is. Every project we talk about, we bring, we're invested in, and that goes with alpha deals, that goes with seed rounds, it goes with everything. So yeah, and heavy in some, heavier than probably most. Grok says it's fake news. Must be fake news. Good. Favorite holding? I think BORG is definitely up there. I think XRP, just because the amount of grief everybody gave XRP for like years, not even like just because of the court case, but even during this period here, it was doomed, it was dead, it was going to zero. So XRP, I think, and then random ones. It's hard to say, to be fair. I think a different question is what something I'm not holding, which I think will do very well, is Hyperliquid. I said it the other night as well. I actually don't hold any, mostly because I kind of faded it when it was up at these prices and thought it was too expensive. I think Hyperliquid will be a massive winner. I think it'll like easily 3 or 4x from here. I think Hyperliquid's going to be one of the big tokens of the bull run. I think they've kind of launched pretty well. Their fees, they don't seem to have any massive scandal. Plus they've got users, they've got volume, they've got TVL. That's pretty much all you need. If I had to pick another one that I don't hold a lot of, but I've got some, but I think will do really well, is Jupiter. So Jupiter have just launched Jupiter Lend. Again, I think they've got like 100 million TVL already. I think lending products will do very well. I think lending products will become saturated. I think right now, anyone that's offering a lending product, now's kind of the time, because I think they'll become saturated like everything else in crypto. Everybody chasing it. But yeah, I think Jupiter will do very well in this bull run as well. I think it will easily eclipse all-time high, which I think is about 150, 185. So I think it will eclipse 185 in the bull run. I think it'll do really well. Could be a nice offshoot of Solana play as well. So if you don't hold Solana, Jupiter might be a good option, because obviously it's still relatively cheap. Solana's pretty much, what's it? It's not far to all-time high. So, I mean, you probably aren't buying a lot of Solana here, 40% from all-time high. Still a way to go, but I don't know if I see value in Solana at $200. Jupiter at 50 cents, I might see as a better option. We entered this trade back, I'm sure it was before then. I actually want to say it was back in March. I'm sure it was when I took the Tesla trade. But anyway, currently up about 37%. That was with CC Pro Alpha as well. So hopefully that answers the question. I kind of went a roundabout way. But yeah, Trump coin is pumping again, up 5.6% today. This thing's just crazy. I don't know anyone that holds it, but yeah. What would be hilarious is if this World Liberty Finance coin gets an ETF approved, because if they approve that for an ETF, there is literally zero reason not to approve every other crypto ETF that is out there. So, and I would imagine they're going to push for that, so that could be interesting to watch. Niall says banks will become an irrelevance in our lifetime. They probably will, in the form that we currently know them. But I think you'll still have a custodian, somewhere that you store your wealth. Whether it won't be like a bank. It won't be like you won't walk into it anyway. It won't be bricks and mortar. But I think you'll still have custodians that hold your assets, because there'll be a lot of, even right now, if you hold Bitcoin on Binance, you have paper Bitcoin. You don't have real Bitcoin. They just offer you an IOU. Not your keys, not your coins is still very much apparent. I think that will last. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I don't think onboarding new users to crypto, they're going to hold Bitcoin in cold storage on a ledger or whatever. They're going to keep it in exchange. So I think banks in the form we know will disappear, but we'll still have a form of a bank that holds your gold, your silver, your Bitcoin, your whatever other cryptos, your stable coins. It'll still be held on a central place. But it might be Kraken, it might be Swissborg, it might be the Bank of America. It could be anywhere. What happened to TRX last night? If there's one thing to sum up crypto, ironically it slapped off a fib level. I mean, it says a lot about this coin. That is insane. So I've had this fib on this chart for ages. We don't even look at TRX on this stream. I couldn't tell you the last time I looked at TRX, and it smacked off a fib level last night. So it's all to do with Justin Sun. So if anyone that doesn't know, Justin Sun was one of the earliest backers of World Liberty Finance coin, whatever it's called. It's called WLFI. I quite like calling it WLFI. I think that makes sense. But anyway, he was one of the biggest backers, and then on launch, he said he was not going to sell his, he was going to keep it. But what actually happened was he was borrowing users' deposits on, I think it was HTX exchange. He was borrowing their funds, dumping the token, and then using the money to pay people back and buy the tokens back. So just ridiculous wash trading. So they froze his wallet address, and then obviously, because everybody worked out Justin Sun is a crook, like he always has been, I would imagine somebody attacked TRX, like they dumped the price during the night because it was low liquidity, and this was probably a big whale trying to attack the TRX price. But it's recovered pretty well. If you had a limit order down at this fib level, you're up pretty nice today. Up 11%, 10x, you're up over 100% in a few hours. That's the power of charts. Fib levels, I haven't looked at this in months, and it retraces right back to there. But at the start we were saying the market's flat, there's no volume. Since we've been on nearly an hour, Bitcoin's done nothing. I mean, at 9 o'clock, Bitcoin's price was 111,258. It's currently 111,289. It's just absolute zero volume. Futures market opens in an hour. I expect that to be when we get some movement in the markets. Be interested to see how the Russell opens. Bitcoin futures closed at 111,955 on Friday. So if we open here right now, we're going to create another CME gap above us. Those are going to start acting like magnets over the coming weeks, which will be very bullish. And you can kind of see, yeah, maybe market structure started to change. It does look like we put in a low here, double bottom, higher low. So maybe we start grinding higher this week. And then MicroStrategy, keep an eye on MicroStrategy. I'll be interested to see how it opens as well. But that's all for tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, I'll probably be back with Alpha tomorrow night. Maybe try and squeeze in a live stream on Tuesday or Wednesday to just cover all the chaos that's going to come this week. It will be volatile. Don't be surprised if we see big wicks both ways, especially if we start going up at the start of the week. They'll use FOMO retail buy-in to reverse prices on big news events. Huge week ahead. We have all this data coming starting on Tuesday, and we build up to FOMC on 17th of September, which should in theory be bullish for markets. That's all for tonight. Thanks again, and I will see you very soon.